I'm Matthew McConaughey, and this is My Life in 10 Songs. Pink Houses by John Mellencamp.
Home of the free, yeah. Little pink houses for you and me.
My brother Pat turned me on to this. In my list of 10 songs, probably more than a couple will be ones that my brother Pat turned me on to. This song and a lot of his albums actually shaped my form of patriotism. And this is something that I specifically remember Sunday afternoons, washing my car, my mom and dad's car, in the driveway and jamming this. And it's a great story about Americana. Its promises, its hypocriticals, its dreams, its reality, where those two meet and where those two do not greet. And it's still my sort of favorite American anthem. So when I was hiking through South America trying to make it to the Amazon River, because I had a dream about it, I thought it would be a nice sort of juxtaposition of something quintessentially American while I was in the middle of the jungle hiking through with a machete. It did sound a little different. It was different than washing the car in the driveway on Sunday afternoon. So I do, A-I, new word D-U. Ali Farka Toure, Rai Cooder. This is a legendary, the African bluesman, Ali Farka Toure, in an album that he made with Rai Cooder, who's done things like Paris, Texas, Buena Vista Social Club. It's an album they did, and I think they did it in 4 days. And so the strings, the African strings, are very staccato. Ding, dong, ding, dong, ding, dong, ding, ding, ding. And they're beautiful, but they're very ding, 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 ding. Rai Cooder plays that slide. Wah, 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 wah. So he puts the syrup into the staccato. He puts the legato of the blues into the staccato of the African instruments. And actually the blues started in Mali, which is where Ali's from, and then moved to Memphis. So this is Ali, who, when I heard this song, I had had a dream that I needed to go to Africa after the dream that I went to Peru and the Amazon. And I didn't know where the hell to go in Africa. It's a big continent. I happened to be listening to this album, and this had been one of my favorite songs. And I was like, where's Ali from? So I went up and I got the liner notes and found out he was from Niafunke on the Niger River. And knowing nothing else, I said, well, that's where I'm going. And I won't get a return ticket, but I'm gonna get a ticket to Bamako, which is the capital. I hitched a 9-hour ride to Mopti, met somebody with a boat, and we did a 2-day trip up the Niger River to Niafunke, where I went to town, and we were looking for Ali. Hours and hours and hours, not finding Ali. All of a sudden, this Land Cruiser comes driving by through the desert sand and just smoked a turn right in front of us. Enough where we were like, gosh damn it, who's that? That was kind of rude. And my guide, he goes, this is Ali. This is Ali. So we went to find Ali. He was not at his first wife's house. He had multiple wives. He was at his second wife's house. And we went in. He had no idea who I was, which was beautiful about it. And he made lunch, and we sat and we ate. And I remember he gave himself an orange crush, and I got water. Everyone else got water, but he gave himself an orange crush. I get there, and I wanted to bring up this song to him, because I love the song. And for whatever reason, sometimes you travel and you lose a sense of space and time and memory. I forgot the damn name of the song. I loved the song. I knew it was I Do. And I'm sitting there going, I'm not remembering the name of the song. Anyway, he gets up with the VHS, and through translation, he goes, I want you to listen to this song of me in concert. I stopped the rain this night. And he put a VHS in, and it was a concert he was playing in France, and it was this song. And I was like, that's it. And so that song is why I went to Africa, where I went, and why I knew where to go, and which turned out to be the most important trip I've taken in my life. All predicated on going to find, where does this musician, the writer of this song, live? And here's the other thing. I thought in the year that I had listened to that song, I thought it was a beautiful love story from a man to a woman. And I've come to find out, because it's in the language of Bambara, which is what's beautiful about hearing sometimes songs where you don't understand the language, you get a feeling of what it is. And yes, it is a love story, but it's not a love story of a man to a woman. It's a love story of man to mankind, of us to community. You must trust yourself to have trust in others. You must trust others to trust yourself. That's the two-line liner note. So it's about a love story between what we have with each other, with people, community. And so it is a love song, but it's not a typical romantic love song like I thought it was. Yeah, Steve Miller. Take the money and run. I mean, I know these guys.
Go on, take the money and run.
Great song for kicking off summer or a good night where you just chunk the morals out and let's just go pull some shit off. Two young lovers with nothing better to do. Get high and watch the two. One day, you get a bright idea. That's why my favorite comedy is Raising Arizona. Nicolas Cage, his wife in there, they're all about, what are we going to go, we got to go steal some diapers because we got a new baby. It's like it's beautiful comedic small-time crimes.
I've been taking these Huggies and whatever cash you got.
Trying to get away with it, you know? Not trying to be the richest or not trying to be a big jewel thief in Nice, France or anything, or steal art. No, we're going to go rob a quick stop, you know? Get enough to live to drink well and smoke well and eat well until we get to the next place where we need some more.
You know he knows just exactly what the facts is.
Yo, Silver and Gold. U2's Rattle and Hum.
They came to collect silver and gold.
That album got me through my year in Australia when I was an exchange student 2 weeks out of high school. And I was living with the family in the middle of nowhere. There's a longer, great story of it in my book, Green Lights. But the shorter version is that album was calling me to task. And I needed to be called to task because my world was chaotic. I was confused. I was insecure. I didn't know I couldn't find balance. I didn't know what I was, what I wasn't. I was lost. And I needed certain disciplines or things to call myself on to duty to do or believe in. And Silver and Gold and that album, you know, talking about Mandela being freed, and it was a time when I was very, very strongly considering becoming a monk. Still might be a good idea. And something that we still deal with today, you know, where we arguably define democracy as capitalism, and it's not. Capitalism's a part of democracy, the commerce part of it, but it's not necessarily a synonym for it. And so in a world that rewards who has the most money, is that always the fair way to go? To declare the winner being the one that has the most money? Not necessarily. Some places, yeah, but not necessarily. So it was calling out, that song and that album was a bit calling out that mendacity, and Silver and Gold is as well, in a really non-sentimental, with a bite way. I love that whole album. They were sort of, U2 was swinging from the hip. It was visceral. It's a really visceral album. Yeah, this next song is called Lonely. It's by an artist named Mishka.
I wouldn't cry, let my makeup float.
So my friend Cole Hauser, we're gonna go on vacation, and he's in Scotland. He goes, hey man, I found this guy, because we like reggae. And he goes, I found this guy. I was in a pub, and I bumped my head in this tack on the wall. I turned around, and there's this white Rastafarian guy, and he just looked cool, and I pulled it off, and he was promoting his album. And I got the album. I think you're gonna love this album. 2 weeks go by, we go on vacation. Heavy party in the first few nights. And I happen to have the room where the club next door is jamming ska music as loud as you can imagine at 7 a.m. to clean up the place. Not what you want when you're partying till sunrise, when you're trying to get a little bit of sleep. 4 days in, I've got to get some sleep. And I've not had any. And through the ska music playing from next door, which the guy would not play, even though I asked him, he was like, no, man, I hear this little melody coming from down low on the speakers down below the first floor. It's playing outside. For whatever reason, even though it was so much quieter, it cut through that ska is not good sleeping music. And I drifted off and I went to sleep finally, and I slept for 5 hours. And I came outside about 3 p.m. and the other people had started their day. And I said out loud, I said, there's something playing this morning. Oh, who's it? Right. And my buddy Cole goes, come here. We walked over, he pulled it out and put it in. He goes, was it this? I was like, that's it. He goes, that's the guy I was telling you I knew you'd like. I was like, oh. Anyway, that album became our album for the 2-week, vacation, number one. And I was also like, I gotta find this guy. And I went looking for him. Couldn't find him. Years went by. 4 years later, I get a call from my office. Someone saying, hey, there's a guy named Mishka opening up for this act at the House of Blues in LA. I go find out if it's him, please. And if it is, could you give my number? I'd love to talk to him, because I was out of the country. It was him. We talk. I know his music up and down. I've listened to prior music, I've listened to that. Love this album. Lonely was one of my favorite songs. He hears my passion for his music and everything. We decided to say we're going to work together. Start a record label with JK11 Records the next day. He comes on. We work together, produced a couple albums with him. Turns out that in the bay of the house we were staying at on that vacation, when I couldn't sleep with the ska music but heard it lonely and drifted off to sleep finally, in the bay in front of us, it was the turn of the millennium. It was the New Year's turn of the millennium, 99 and 2000. He was on a boat, his father's boat, anchored right there in Eyeline. In 99 turn 2000. He was there. Never met, nothing, but that's exactly where he was. So another beautiful, these stories when music takes full circles is incredible. So.
And I don't know if I can swim that good.
Lil Devil by The Cult. Ooh, man, The Cult. One of my favorite rock bands ever. Rhythm rock bands. It's why I like ACDC too. They have that, the locomotive just never stops. They just train through it. So many good tunes. Been to so many Cult concerts, and in LA at that time, you could find them on So Said Tuesday night, playing at the Viper Room or somewhere, or the House of Blues, and I would always get to the front row for them. And then I also always knew that anything before 11 a.m. tomorrow was gonna be hell, because I was gonna go hard. And I would come out of there, my neck would be so sore from just thrashing on the front row, singing and dancing and rocking and dripping pools of sweat on the ground. Love a front row of a Cult concert. One of my favorite experiences I've had many, many times. Probably made the first connection with them in a House of Blues show where Ian was up there going into one of his monologues and asking these big questions, and do you know why? And I started giving a response from the crowd, loud, and I was answering clearly. And he went into his thing, and I'd answer back real loud, and no, it was dead quiet. And he'd go on his thing, and I'd answer back, and after about the 5th thing I answered, he looked up and he goes, "Tripper!" I was like, yeah, man, let's go. Janet Jackson, That's the Way Love Goes. What a cool, groovy little tune. It's also the reason I quit smoking weed. It's right around the time weed started turning hydroponic. A lot of y'all don't remember, but weed used to be you could roll a joint, smoke it, pass it around, everyone giggles, gets the munchies, and maybe runs off and tries to get some snuggle time. Well, then it started getting this hydroponic stuff where, like, one toke, the subplots could become unmanageable and people would implode. And anyway, it was around that time, and I was headed to, it was a night, this particular night, I was headed to my own birthday party that my friends were throwing for me at a club. We'd taken over the club, my birthday party. I'm gonna drive myself. Before I go, my buddy hands me this joint, goes, "Here, man. I toke to have some of this. Super fun." Well, I get there and I take a toke in the car. It was not like the weed I'd smoked before. I listened to Janet Jackson's That's the Way Love Goes 24 times in a row. And when I finally got out of the car to go into my birthday party, no one was in there because it was over. They had all left because I sat in the freaking car listen to That's the Way Love Goes 24 times because I thought at the time that was more important than going to my own birthday party. Loved the song, didn't love the weed. I was like, whoa, man. Again, as my buddy Bindler says, the subplots became unmanageable. Still like the tune, though.
I'm gonna give you one thirst.
Beating around the bush. But Brother Pat turned me on that. This is Beating Around the Bush by acdc. We're talking about Bon Scott, acdc. Okay? Let's go back in time. Highway to Hell is the album. One of the great all-time rock and roll albums. I mean, if you don't know this one, you like rock and roll, get you some Highway to Hell. This is not Back in Black. This is not, no. Those are big gaming, kind of our generation knows those probably a little bit more, but go back and check out Highway to Hell. It's loaded with badass rock tunes. Beating Around the Bush is the tune, one of the tunes. So my brother was older. So say I'm 11, say I'm 10, he's 17. He got a midnight curfew. I'm not going out, I'm at home sleeping. He would do this really cool thing that my big brother did, is when he'd get home from his curfew, he'd come in, wake me up out of bed. I'd get up my tidy whities, hop in the shotgun seat of his Z28, and he'd turn me on the music, and we'd jam in the front, in the driveway, in the front of the house. And one of the tunes, rock and roll, he'd turn me on to was Beating Around the Bush. I'd do that. He would always do the, he'd always do the bass line. I remember Pat doing that all the time. What a great introduction to rock and roll. Thank you, Pat.
The way I watched you last night, beating around the bush.
The next song's Shout by Tears for Fears. So, very popular song, but here's why this song's important in my life. Everyone, in some way or fashion wants sort of a respect from their father. And you get it in different ways. And I got respect from my father in many different ways, but I particularly remembered this way. He was a traveling pipe salesman, and so he'd go drive within 3-hour radius. And he'd go a lot of times, when I could go with him, I'd go with him. And he'd take me with him. And we'd go meet people, try to collect or sell or what have you. He drove this Ram Charger, and he smoked, and he'd have the window down, but the AC on high, and he'd flick that ash in the general direction of the ashtray. I mean, the floor mat was just charred and burned because it was just... Anyway, we're driving down the road, and he's leaning up, AC on high, window halfway down. I remember if he wasn't listening to music of which I got to play from on the trip, he'd have if the station was like 98.9, he'd always have it on like 98.8. So it's gonna come in, and he liked that it was 1/10 of a frequency digit off the main station. I don't know why. Anyway, I remember that clearly. Anyway, one of these road trips where I was going with him, I had gotten into Tears for Fears, and I put that song on, and I'm riding over the shotgun, and we got a ways to go. So I'm just gonna I put the cassette in my dad's car while we're driving down the road. And I'll never forget, without even looking at me, he reached over and he turned it up. And I remember as a young boy going, oh, my dad just turned up one of my tunes. And after the song, he looked over, he's like, I like that, boy. I like that. And I was like, it was a big rite of passage as a young man, his son. My dad turned up one of my songs. Yeah. This is Have to Be Crazy by Willie Nelson.
Plumb out of my mind to fall out of love with you.
Yeah, what a beautiful love song this is. It's not your typical romantic love song. Being in that place where you're kind of going mad. And I've been there, following ants as they crawl across the ground, burning your hand on the lamp when you're rubbing the bottle, hoping a genie will come out and save your ass. Just kind of, one of those times when you're like, I think if I'm going to leave my bed today, I need to put on a helmet, a chin strap, and a cup. And ask if the walls are insulated. And don't get me around motorized vehicles or glass. I don't know. I think we've all had those days. I know I have. But in the middle of all the madness and the implosions, when the subplots are becoming a little unmanageable. The love of somebody that you have is something you can rely on, that you go, nope, I know that's real, I know that's true. Even though I'm losing my mind right now, I can rely on that, so don't forget that anchor. And that's where the song goes, yeah, but, you know, I'd have to be crazy to fall out of love with you. I am crazy, but I'd really have to be crazy to fall out of love with you. I've had those people in my life in times where that was the anchor to rely on, by hook or by crook, no matter what. That just kept my sanity just enough.
And I may not be normal, but nobody is.
Is that 10? No, you didn't. You skipped some because I was giving long answers. She skipped some because I was giving long answers, didn't she? You're running out of tape over there. 50 ways to lose your lover.
I'd like to help you in your struggle to be free. There must be 50 ways to leave your lover.
Yeah, so my brother Pat turned me on that song. What a cool tune. It's my alarm clock song. It is a great example of where the spoken word can be beautiful. Paul Simon's, he's like a spoken word through most of it. And it's beautiful when he's like talking to her, but his diction and his voice is just beautiful spoken word. And like, you know, people like Kurt Vonnegut like to hear spoken word, but it's a great spoken word could be musical. Now, I haven't asked him, which I should. I don't know Paul, but I know he lives out near Austin. I think there's a missing fourth verse. So the whole song is he's with this lady saying, look, I'm trying to leave this lover, can you tell me? And she's like, hey, don't sweat it. It's easy. Here, you can slip out the back, Jack, drop off the key, lead, right? Hop on the bus, guys. Just don't need to discuss much. And everything's cool. And then he says, yeah, well, I don't want to be crude, but, you know, can you, yeah, it's easy. They go to sleep into the night, and the song's over. I think the fourth verse that's missing, Paul, I'm not sure, is that he should wake up in the morning and she's gone. Because she just left him. I always thought, I was like, oh, that's the finish of the story. And I wonder if they recorded that and didn't do it, or if Paul would go, oh, good idea. Or if he'd go, no, that's not what I wanted to do, and here's why. Very, very cool song, and a great way to wake up easy in the morning.
You really try to get in character, obviously, well in advance to roles, it seems like. Do you use music?
As I'm getting the character, I don't think about, oh, here's this. I just start making an album of what I'm hearing that I like a lot, because I'm already starting to listen through the ears of my character. And I'll put those playlists together. Then you can sort them for what the rhythms of the character's arc journey is through the entire story. And so the entire album becomes like one song that you follow a rhythm to. Yeah, I do that for everything, and that's so fun. I learned that, though, in the coolest way with Richard Linklater on Dazed and Confused. Rick's first direction for everybody was he gave them a cassette and goes, hey, here's what I think your character be listening to. It's like, how badass is that? Oh, I'm going to go drive around and listen to this cassette, and I'm doing homework. But it's beautiful because music doesn't tell you what to do. And no one likes to be told what to do. But you put them in a place, you give a sense of space and place. It isn't about making sense. It's about knowing a rhythm. It does something to your shoulders, does something to how you sit. So I always, since then, I don't know if it's because of that or if it's just instinctually, always make certain playlists for every single character I'm getting prepared.